Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So, what is going on with Bitcoin today? Is the decline over, or is this a fake out that many people are predicting? Let's look at what's happening today around the world, and let's look at some data that shows that Bitcoin's decline may be over. All right, let's do it. Welcome, guys. Good morning. We're starting out the day around 55,300, which isn't bad. I mean, compared to the bottom of 49,000 yesterday. But it does seem like Bitcoin is recovering upwards. It's a little bit lower than last night, but overall, we are moving in the right direction. Is it a V-shaped recovery? It doesn't look quite like a V. But let's see how today shapes. Right now, we're opening up at 55.2. It is starting to go up. And overall, U.S. market is opening up, well, kind of mixed. Last night, the futures market showed extreme greed. Right now, it's kind of mixed. Dow is down. NASDAQ is up a little bit. I think people are still trying to digest what to expect going forward. Do we need an emergency meeting for an emergency rate cut, or is it okay to wait until September for that very first rate cut? So Asia has been kind of surprising. We had a massive sell-off from Japan due to a variety of reasons, due to their currency, what their central bank did, their currency, and also their economy and everything else that's going on, right? They had a huge minus 13% day. Then they had a plus 10% day, so good in fact, that they had a circuit breaker turn on, right, for the upside too, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it doesn't mean that it recovered, because if they go down 13%, they need to go up 26% to kind of make up for it. So they didn't fully recover, but because of that, you know, things got a little bit better. But did things really get better in Japan? No, didn't. You know, I kind of study up a little bit more about this. Why did this happen? It has a lot to do with trade, a lot to do with their negative interest rate policy that they had for the last 8 years. While everyone else has been raising rates, they had a negative interest rate policy. And that caused a whole lot of people from around the world to borrow a whole lot of money, because it was basically free money. And they used that to buy assets and equities from other places. So now that they've decided to raise their rates finally, it's no longer that cheap. And plus, Japan has other problems too, because of their slowing economy. They also have, they're not worried about inflation. They're worried about deflation, which actually is much worse, because Japanese people are just not spending, and that is a much bigger issue. Anyway, so there's a lot that's going on around Japan, which is kind of what started all this. But we know in the U.S., we weren't doing that well either. Okay, jobs are coming in low, and that's never a good thing, right? Sentiment is also low. Everything else is low. But, you know, we kind of been just waiting for Fed Chair Powell to make things right with the very first rate cut. And that didn't happen last month, right? So that scared Wall Street too. So, I mean, there's a number of things going on, right? But are things getting better? Well, let's see, right? Let's see how today is. I do know that yesterday, despite the massive sell-off and scare, man, a whole lot of people were trading spot ETFs. Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs hit 6 billion in volume. So obviously the fund makers were making a ton of money with this. But like I said, BlackRock and Larry Fink, they do not want to let go of any Bitcoin. And here's the real telling thing. Okay. Yesterday, we had an outflow of 168 million. You had Fidelity sell off. You had ARK sell off. You had Grayscale sell off. No surprise. But look at BlackRock. 0. Okay, they didn't add, but they didn't sell either. BlackRock never lets anything go. It's not never. They did it once, but I think that was by accident. And ever since there, Larry Fink said no outflows ever. So you could see, even going back to July 18th, you could see that Fidelity has been selling, right? 6 straight days of selling. ARK had 5 straight days selling. Bitwise had 5 straight days of selling. The only fund that doesn't sell is BlackRock. Larry Fink is like, no, I don't care if people are selling it off. We're going to make sure we're going to hold on to every single Bitcoin we have. See, if you truly understand what Bitcoin's about, well, then that's the right call. You just hodl. You just hodl and hodl and hodl some more until you get DCA, and then you let the gains come to you. So that even on a grander scale, like BlackRock, the largest asset manager, and their CEO is starting to understand that. And they're doing it with their own Bitcoin ETF, right? Now, of course, we got others that understand that too. That's why Morgan Stanley, starting tomorrow, in fact, is going to pitch Bitcoin and Bitcoin spot ETFs to their wealth clients, or wealthy clients, I should say, because they've probably been asking for it. They're like, hey, we want some exposure and we can't get it. So that's going to start tomorrow. And of course, you got others that are starting to embrace the Bitcoin strategy, like MicroStrategy. Semler Scientific buys another $6 million worth of Bitcoin. They now have, a little bit under 1,000 Bitcoin, worth about $63 million. That's what you're supposed to do. Buy low and sell high. So during yesterday's activity, they decided to buy some more. Metaplanet out of Japan. We're just talking a lot about Japan. They're one of the hottest stocks in Japan because they embrace the Bitcoin strategy. They're raising another 10 billion yen to purchase, guess what? More Bitcoin, right? Kind of like what MicroStrategy is doing. They're trying to raise $2 billion for more Bitcoin. Metaplanet is doing the same thing. So it's not just fund managers, okay? We have a lot of public traded companies that are also understanding that, yeah, Bitcoin is the way to go, right? It's not just like random people on X now. Back in 2017 or 2021, even in 2021, when I would be covering news about who's buying, it'll be mostly like whales buying, anonymous wallets buying, and so forth. Now there's so many reports of funds buying and public trade companies buying. I mean, it's so different now. It's very, very, very different. Let's just say the appetite for Bitcoin has grown to everyone from the smallest retail investor to the largest companies on earth. And here's the thing. When in doubt, zoom out, right? I've always said that. People that are afraid, when in doubt, zoom out. This is a perfect example showing that just 7 days ago, we were at $70,000. So that doesn't mean that in 7 years, 7 days, we can't get back to $70,000. Things move really quickly in both directions. Volatility is a name of the game when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto. Really, it's the only thing that's preventing people from making a lot of money because people do not understand. A lot of people coming in have lettuce hands. They don't understand that with investments, all investments really, not just with Bitcoin, you got to have patience. Yes, everyone tries to time top or bottom, but most people get it wrong. So the best way to do it is either you buy over time, dollar cost average in, or you buy when other people are panicking. You buy the dips. You buy when it's very, very fearful out. And yesterday was one of those moments. Will we get more of those moments moving forward? Yes, every single cycle we do, right? Every single cycle we do. However, with yesterday's dip, there are many, many similarities to bottoms that we have seen in the past. Okay, Peter Brandt relatively well-known trader. He does a lot of X posts. He's been around for a long time. And he tweeted this, that since our halving event, okay, Bitcoin has gone down about 26%. But guess what? In 2016, we had the same thing happen, okay? Since that halving event, Bitcoin went down 27%. And then afterwards, guess what happened? Basically, it kept going until the peak in 2017 at $20,000, right? So again, this shows that we are mimicking previous cycles. In 2016, I remember that 2016 was the halving event, and then end of 2016 is when things start moving around September, October. I actually showed it last night. Every halving event, you don't really see that true parabolic rise until about September, October timeframe. But really, it's when November is when things start moving, right? But we do see a lot of volatility. We do see a lot of dips along the way. So we just saw a 26% dip from our peak, or from the halving event, I should say. And it's very, very similar to that cycle, right? Here's something else that shows that this is a great golden buying opportunity, that yesterday, whatever happened yesterday could have been the bottom, and we're ready to go higher. So if you look at this, I'm going to cut out my camera. So this is one of the major on-chain metrics, MVRV. And you could see, basically, right now, we are as oversold as the collapse of FTX, okay? And again, this is going back to November 2022. And you could see, even though we had many dips, okay, and this on-chain metrics have predicted many turning points where Bitcoin starts flying higher, but we haven't been this oversold. Bitcoin hasn't been this cheap since the collapse of FTX, when Bitcoin fell down to 15,000. I mean, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. This is what I want to show you guys. So it's a golden buying opportunity right now, right? Even though we may get more volatility. Yes, we may get more volatility, right? But this is one of those times where a lot of on-chain metrics, a lot of charts showed that, hey, this is normal. We have seen big dips like this before. We have seen corrections like this before. And then what happens after? We recover. We recover. Here's another example, right? In 2020, this was brutal, absolutely brutal, with the COVID crash. When Bitcoin fell from about $10,000, which wasn't that high to begin with, and fell down to about $3,800. Okay, ETH fell down to like $88. I remember that. If you think 2,000 something, 2,500 ETH was low, imagine ETH under $100. Yes, you could have bought ETH under $100 in 2020. You could have bought Bitcoin under 4,000 in 2020 due to that COVID crash. And what happened shortly afterwards, right? We had a little recovery. We had another dip, and then we kind of had another recovery. But it took a long time for Bitcoin to even get back up to $10,000. It took months upon months. And same thing with Ethereum. It took months upon months before it recovered back to $200, $300. And back then, it was much more fearful because that was during COVID, during shutdown. People were out of job. No one was working, right? People thought Bitcoin's cycle was over. There was no way that it could go back up and form a new high. But people that had patience, they waited and waited, and guess what happened? Bitcoin came right back up, right? Here's another one that's showing the same thing with the previous cycle. You guys know what I'm showing you guys. Time and time and time again, we see these moments. We see them all the time. There are many, many moments every single cycle where we go through some of these periods where you just have these corrections, you have these dips, you have these volatility, right? But times are very different now. Bitcoin is much bigger, much more stronger. It's much more mature than previous cycles. We have big boys like BlackRock that's loading up. You have MicroStrategy that's loading up by the billions, and many, many, many other companies that are implementing the Bitcoin strategy, right? We got ETFs now that never existed before that took in tens of billions of dollars of Bitcoin. So the environment is very, very different for many reasons. But if you're looking at movement, you're looking at the charts, we still have the same kind of corrections and dips and volatilities. And like I said, it's really the price of admission for gains. If you can't stand the volatility, you can't stand the dips that come along the way, well, then you're not going to be able to enjoy the rewards of gains later on, because most likely you would have sold out already. But those that have been in this space for a while, even over a few years, know that the ultimate strategy is simply to hodl and DCA if you can. If you can't DCA, then just hodl. That's really it. And you let the gains come to you. That's really what it comes down to. All right, outside of Bitcoin, there's just a few other things. I did see the Ronin network was exploited again for 10 million. They suffered one of the biggest hacks in 2021, $600 million. But this time around, maybe just a white hat hacker, so they may be giving it back. But still, Ronin network seems to be hacked way too many times. Way too many times. And also, Solana is now approaching all-time high against Ethereum. So even though Solana has come down with a dip, it's coming back a lot stronger than ETH. And that part of that could be because there are a lot of people selling ETH right now. Just yesterday, last night, I reported the U.S. government is selling off ETH. Jump Trading has been selling off ETH. Grayscale has been selling off ETH. So there's like a bombardment of ETH being sold off right now. That could be the reason. Or it could be because Sol is just catching up or recovering faster. And that's it. That's it. But lastly, I'll show you this. The first half of 2024, when you're looking at Bitcoin, right? This is why it's so important to hold a good amount of Bitcoin. I've always said like 50, 25, 25 rule. The reason being, when we have volatility, when we have periods where we have staleness, we have, I don't know, a little volatility, right? Or, big volatility like what we're seeing right now. Bitcoin leads the way. Very, very, very little alts actually outperform Bitcoin. In fact, only 1/4 of the top 50 have outperformed Bitcoin in the first half of this year. And 40% are negative year to date. Okay. So that's why you don't want to go too heavy in alts. You have to have a good balance. And primarily, most of the alts gain during altcoin season, during like the last half or last quarter of a cycle. So I say this because a lot of you guys are very heavy into alts, right? Way, way heavier than you should be. But this is the reason why you never want to go too light with Bitcoin. And you could be okay with 100% Bitcoin if you wanted to. But if you're like 100% alts, you're probably feeling it right now. All right, that is pretty much it. Overall, the global crypto market cap is closing in at 2 trillion once again, 5% increase overall. Majority of projects are in the green today. That's what we want to see. All right, let's do some Q&A. All right, let me scroll up. Let's see here. Let's see if I missed anything. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Kevin says, I'm starting to get worried. You seem to type that a lot, Kevin. Fifth encounter. I sold everything halfway through that damn crash, bought half of it back. Now I have money left over. What to do with it? Hey, I can't tell you what to do. You can slowly dollar cost average in, or you could buy back. But now that we're higher, you're gonna get less, right? This is why sometimes you don't want to panic sell. Like sometimes it works out, other times it doesn't. Let's see. Raul, good morning. Cross says, George, I feel Powell can keep the market from crashing, but do you think he could turn our economy around? I feel like even if he cuts rates, they need to stop spending so much. That is a very good point that Powell can't solve, or any Fed president or Fed chairs can solve. He's been asked this before. He's like, that's not my duty to tell others or the government how to spend. But irresponsible spending will never be over. They'll never stop. We have this now implemented this new policy where we don't even have a debt ceiling, and that's why we could just keep going up forever. And that's why fiat will always be inflated. That's never going to stop, right? But Powell can stop the market from crashing for sure. If he implements some really steep cuts, it's priced in that most likely there's going to be a 50 basis point cut in September rather than 25. That will help the market from crashing, right? And if you wanted to go more, he can. But as for fighting inflation, he can only do what he can. But with the irresponsible spending and printing, inflation will be a forever thing. That's why you need to hold hard assets. You need to hold things that out-inflate inflation, so to speak. Crypto Moose, honest opinion, do you think we're in a bubble and everything will crash, including Bitcoin? No, I do not. Ben, I'm not going to repeat that. Tamozawa, always have dry powder. BTC is not a safe haven. It is a safe haven, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have dry powder. BTC is the safest haven that we have, even compared to gold. I can't stand when people make the argument, well, gold is the ultimate asset to hold because if there's no electricity, Bitcoin shuts down and you have gold. If there's no electricity, gold is not going to be the main asset that people want. It'll be weapons, it'll be ammunition, it'll be food and water, okay? The whole world will be an Armageddon then. So that argument is just so stupid. And no one shaves like shavings of gold from a gold bar to purchase stuff with. That's ridiculous too, right? So the hardest asset that we have, the best safe haven we have is Bitcoin. The price appreciation proves it. You go back 15 years or 10 years, nothing close to the appreciation of Bitcoin. Pat Jr., a milestone member for 18 months. Thank you for that. And I'm still grateful to be here. Glad to hear it. Most people buy paper gold and not even real gold. That's true. How many people actually hold gold bars in their safe? Almost no one. Let's see. The U.S. market is doing pretty well today. Dow plus 300. Let's see. Tesla's down. Nvidia's up a little bit. I'm glad to see it above 100. Coinbase down a little bit. Let's see. MSTR down a little bit. Bitcoin still at 55.2. Ermin, before summer 25, will things in top 200 be at least 10x? Not everything, no, Ermin, not everything. Ideally, you want gold coins as they are tax-free and less hassle to carry around. What do you mean they are tax-free? And there's only so much gold coins that you can hold or carry around until it gets too cumbersome or too heavy. You could carry $1 billion worth of Bitcoin on a USB stick. You could carry $1 million on a USB stick, right? How much does $1 million worth of gold coins weigh? Like realistically, you're not gonna get much if you're trying to like cross a border or something with your gold coins or bars. How much can you really realistically take? Mad Squitter, I lost $500,000 over last week. It was the first bull cycle I played with leverage. A mistake I won't make again. I'm sorry to hear that. That's a lot of money to lose. Hopefully, you know, that's very little of what you actually have. But that's a crazy amount, right? That's why you got to be careful with leverage. I've said this before. I play with leverage, but recently, the last 2 days, I got wiped out too with some of my calls, and it sucks. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful. You got to, you know, sometimes the markets are very unpredictable. You got to be less greedy. It's very tempting to throw heavy leverage like, you know, 10x, when 10x, 15x, 20x, when you know for sure, where you think for sure it's going to go up or down and it goes in the opposite direction. And these market makers, they always tend to move prices to the exact point of liquidation, no matter how much margin you put in. So you just got to be careful with them. Hopefully that's a life lesson. I've been liquidated for 6 figures before, and it's just a horrible feeling. CLT says, I got a check from Voyager yesterday. Said it represents another 34% of my original claim. In total, I've received 70% so far. That's great. That's great. Great to see some people getting some money back from them. How much do you need to have? How much do you need to have to open a position of 6 figures? I mean, you need 6 figures to open a position of 6 figures. I think that's what you're asking. I don't know. Bob Robinson says, I turned on my BTC Solana at the crash, now doing well and bounces back hard. Solana is bouncing back really good. It was oversold, now it's bouncing back pretty good, but a lot of things are bouncing back good. But look at Solana, up 12%. Bitcoin and ETH up about 3%, BNB up 8%, but still nowhere close to where we were just a week ago. But it's a good start. I mean, the best way to think about this is if you love Bitcoin at 70, you love Bitcoin at 64, you love Bitcoin at whatever, you should love it more now. You can buy more of it. You can acquire more sats at a cheaper price, right? That's the best way to look at it. You can acquire more of whatever crypto at a cheaper price. It's at a steep discount right now, just like anything else. You want to go buy a car, you want to buy a house, and now it's 30% cheaper just a week later. Wouldn't you love to buy it even more? It's kind of the same way with Bitcoin. Any word on emergency rate cut meeting? I don't know. The markets, it depends on the markets for the remainder of this week. If like NASDAQ and S&P continues to sell off for the remainder of this week, then I think Powell will really have to think about it for next week. But right now, like today's a green day, we'll see. Like if we have a pretty good recovery for the rest of this week, then we're not going to get one. We're not going to get one. XRP is still holding its 50% range. It sure is. That's what XRP looks like. Unfortunately, this is what XRP looks like when you zoom out. So it's still under this. It's still under this. This. What do you call it? This down. This cycle trend line. That's what I was looking for. It's still under this trend line. It still hasn't broken out of this trend line. Do you reckon AVAX is still strong? Well, looking at this, nowhere close to its 2021 high when it peaked out around 150. Yeah, like around 150. So it still has to go up. Ooh, has to go up a lot. I don't know. I still believe in AVAX. I think they could do very well. They're really focused on gaming, and let's see if that's the right move. They're doing RWA and gaming and memes too, right? If gaming blows up, it's going to help them quite tremendously. Crypto Architect, George, just thought gold coins is better than bars as part of a diverse portfolio. I just don't. For me, it's just like I'll never ever buy gold. I just don't see any reason for it. I'd much rather buy real estate than gold. Like, I just don't see any good reason to buy gold. It's basically made to not move. It's like a real world stable coin. And that's gold, basically. But I look for assets that are investments. I'm not buying stable coins like gold. I'm buying assets that I believe are the fastest horses in the race, right? Like crypto. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process there. You can keep women happy, George. Isn't that reason enough to buy gold? You could keep women happy with many things, not just gold. I don't know where that came from. All right, look at this. Now Bitcoin's coming back up to about 56,000 once again, basically like where we were yesterday. Things are looking better, better and better and better. You got a lot of companies that are still DCAing, right? That's the right way to do it. Tennessee says, what if Mars is full of gold? I bet it's not full of Bitcoin, exactly. Jason Bourne says, my short is in Bitcoin to 39,999. Man, if you really open that, you have balls of steel. And get ready to be liquidated on that. Lowe's says, I think the only thing that drives retail investors to crypto are gains from memes. Yeah, other projects can have this partnership and merge with big companies. I just don't think it does much. It does in the bull market. It sounds like you may have not lived through a bull market, like you haven't lived through 2021 when it was peaking or 2017 when it was peaking. When those time comes, your mind will be changed because that's when all these little partnerships and little developments and new roadmaps, new whatever, new features, that's when they pump projects consistently. Right now, you're right. I think mostly it's just memes. But when altcoin season comes, you'll think different. Oh, this is good. Coinbase back in the green. Man, Coinbase went from a high of 257 down to 190, just like Bitcoin. Pretty good buying opportunity. What is MicroStrategy? MicroStrategy is 1310. It went from 1752 down to 1315. Man, that was only like 2 weeks ago. Pretty good push. 56.2. Looking good right now. There are a lot of signs that we have bottomed, right? Maybe we get more volatility. It really depends on a global market. But right now, like, we have on-chain metrics like that show that we are as oversold as when Bitcoin was 15,000, and that was after the collapse of FTX. Okay. I mean, this is a very telling chart. Yeah, there has been dips. There has been many dips along the way in the last 2 years, but we haven't seen one as drastic as the one we just went through since the bottom, since $15,000 Bitcoin, right? So it's looking good. And even if you don't believe in this, then believe in just holding DCA. That's really it. Can you check if a death cross is near? Is nowhere near. Nowhere near. Brazil just opened a door to interest rate hikes. Central bank will raise rates and not cut rates. I think Brazil, well, they're like some of the other countries that's suffering from, I don't know, hyperinflation. So they might be doing that. A lot of countries that have extreme hyperinflation will do stuff like that because they don't want people to borrow more money. BlackRock did not sell any yesterday. Did not sell one single Bitcoin yesterday. Even though they didn't buy, it was understandable. Yesterday was pretty bad. Even with all the retail investors and Wall Street investors panic selling Bitcoin ETFs yesterday, you still had zero outflow from BlackRock's IBIT fund. Reason being, they are loading up. They're using other funds to buy their own fund. That's how they're doing it. And I'm sure secretly maybe Larry Fink and others are doing it. I mean, that tells you. And when all the other funds are having outflows and they're not, they're only having inflows, that means something. I don't know how significant, but I think it's pretty significant. All right, guys, I'll let you go. Overall, today is pretty good. Today is pretty good. We're having a slight recovery. Of course, not back to where we want to be. But U.S. market is recovering. Bitcoin and crypto both recovering. And we have many signs that show that decline is over. And this is a golden opportunity to be loading up on cheap Bitcoin, cheap crypto before we get back to where we were before. All right. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys tonight. Usual time, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right. Have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.